All right. We have two more. Let's queue up Heath Cochran from Alpinestars. This is going to be a good one because when Heath and I were talking a second ago, he was mentioning all the different racing series that Alpinestars is in, and I can't even, I probably wouldn't remember 10% of them. Heath, can you go over just a few of the different series and sanctioning bodies that you're involved with? That might
Yeah,
consume the
what's
whole
up,
15
Alex?
minutes, by the way.
No, no, how are you? I want to thank Chris from Maxis and Josh from Thor. That was awesome. Hopefully, I'll see those guys at a race sometime soon. But from Alpine Stars, this is a sponsorship. You're looking to get sponsored, and based on everything I've seen, this is very heavily motocross focused. And with Alpine Stars, of course, F1, NASCAR, MotoGP, MXGP. I mean, you name every form of motorsports. We're in the space pretty deep. But, when I was thinking about the responses, what people were saying here, with the exception of, F1, which is a little different, that a lot of that has to do with teams. But even on the bigger side, like you go to Star, like your Thor, your Alpine Stars helmets, your Alpine Stars boots, like there's programs that come with that. And with each of these programs, a lot of these things that everybody is talking about, it's the same. The foundation is the same. It's right. It's an athlete. You're an athlete coming into a brand, bringing your expertise, bringing your knowledge, bringing your skill, and bringing wins, bringing attention to a brand or a product, or like everybody's been saying, their own personal brand. Like, what do you bring? Are you? I mean, really think about it. The foundation of a sponsorship, what is it? To sell more stuff, right? That's what Maxis wants to do. Sell more tires. Same thing with Thor, same thing with everyone, right? Every person that's out there representing that brand, we want that to help influence a sale. With Alpine Stars, very fortunate to have the fastest athletes in motocross in the US for quite a number of years. And MXGP, of course, a lot of fast athletes there. F1, MotoGP championships. I mean, everything ties into the fastest athletes. And all of these values that everybody is talking about, I mean, it spans across the globe of what Alpine Stars represents.
And so your brand ambassadors, the athletes that represent your brand, I just heard they're champions because they're winning. They're doing a good job because they're helping you sell product. Does a lot of the product sales, is that direct, or could it also be building equity for the brand because of the image? Because revenue is both quantity times the price something is sold, and you can raise prices and sell more. But or you could even raise quantities and sell more. If you can't raise quantities, you can always raise prices, and that comes with image and branding. How much of
Mm-hmm.
it is that versus actual sales? And can you quantify the sales?
I mean, it's so difficult to quantify sales of supporting an athlete. I mean, but you think about the attention that you're getting from certain athletes, and let's say your athletes are on the podium every single race and they're winning every single race, and there's a lot of attention that goes into that. And when you think of the word, everybody says influencer, right? And what is the ultimate influencer? It's I want to be like him.
Yeah.
I feel like that's me. Like I want to be that guy. I mean, look at Roger DeCoster, right? Very first Alpine Stars athlete, very first Alpine Stars champion, very first Alpine Stars development rider. Like people wanted to be like Roger because Roger was the man in motocross in the 60s and progressed on into that. And so you look at Jet Lawrence, you look at Hunter Lawrence, you look at Chase Sexton, you look at Eli Tomac, you look at Jason Anderson, Jason Cooper, Justin Cooper. These are just a handful of our athletes, and like, there's kids that you go to these races and they're like Jet, Hunter, Eli.
Yeah.
So you hope that those kids, like when they go buy their gear and they're gearing up, they got the Alpine Stars helmet on, they got the gear, they got the boots, they got the gloves, because that's who their favorite rider is.
So
So
obviously you give product. It's because you want to outfit them with your brand. What else does Alpine Stars do for riders? Like, what does the sponsorship look like?
oh man, that's a big one. So what does Alpine Stars do for their riders? Well, I will say From a support side, we have staff at every single race
Mhm.
that supports riders.
Wow.
Say you get off the track, you bring us your boots. We're going to clean your boots. There's extra sets of gear. Someone cleans your helmet. Someone's there to support what you need at every race.
Wow.
So like, hey, I had a crash. I got a hole in my jersey. Here's your backup. I got a crash. My boot buckle came undone. Like my soles are pretty worn out. I need another set. The other set's there. So there's constant service and support at every single round. I mean, full support. And
Can
that's
I ask a
something.
quick question to you? So
How?
we're talking,
Yeah.
this, yeah, I'm a youth activation guy. So you're talking about at a very high level, but what about these up and comers? How does Alpenstar approach up and comers? Is it purely results? Or are you looking for dynamic personalities? Are you looking for new opportunities through amateurs through different disciplines? Um, can you talk more about the amateur level
Sure, sure.
program?
So our team that supports Jet, Hunter, and all those guys also goes to Loretta's, also goes to some of the amateur races to scan and see and work with our amateur athletes. We have amateur athletes too. And our team will go to those amateur races supporting boots. We have a couple guys that we support gear with, so there is support on that level. But if you're talking about how to get within the scope of Alpinestars' attention, there's a lot of things that qualify into that. A lot of it comes down to results, like are you winning? Are you on the podium a lot? But it's also not just that. A lot of it comes down to um, your personal brand. Like if someone's talking about you, word of mouth. Like,
Mhm.
hey, do you see Chet last week? Like he won first place and he's been winning first like all around. What's the talk about Chet? Oh, dude, he's such a great kid and he works really hard. His family's great supporting him. Like, what does the label of that rider say? That has a lot to do in it too. And then once we do have attention, when we start working with an amateur rider, like, hey, here's some boots. From that point on, it's what's the communication like? Is it
Good.
giving us an opportunity to help support? Or is it, hey, I just want free stuff? Like, there's a lot of things that go into that. Showing appreciation, being respectful. We talked about, a lot of people talked about your personal brand, social media. We look at social media pages because when you think about it, whether it's any of the other brands we've talked about, like this person is representing your brand. Do you want this person representing your brand? So our team researches social media. What's their social media feed like? What's their website like? Do they have a blog? Do they have a YouTube page? Do they send out a newsletter letting people know what they have, what they're doing? Do they send sponsor updates with photos that you could share on your social media programs? Or, hey, I just won this championship this week. Here's a photo of me with my boots and my gear. Thank you so much. And we'll give you photos once a week if you guys want to use them, whatever you need. It's working with the brands and creating a brand value, creating loyalty, open and great communication is number one. Having great kind of family vibe because Alpinestars, I mean, this is a family owned business and a lot of the athletes, I mean, they're family. And so do you want to spend a lot of time with a rider that's not only fast, but also has a great personality and is easy to work with, great communication, has great social media, goes above and outside of just the normal things what a writer would do on their own social media or helping you out in between sessions or at the end of the day if their session is done, hey, do you guys need any help with anything, like I'm done for the day. It's like thinking outside the box to bring value to a brand to show that you really believe in that brand and what they do and the products that they make, and ultimately respect is a big thing, and communication. I know I said that before, but having a great communication with your sponsors is so important. And you don't just feel like give me free stuff and cool. I'll let you know when I need more free stuff. It's like it doesn't work well that way. I
I'm glad that
hopefully
you
that
brought up
helped a little bit of
communication.
your answer.
No, I'm glad that you brought up communication because, here we've been 3 hours now on this sponsorship summit, and we have not really talked about communicating back to the sponsor. My next question to you is going to be, now that we know what Alpine Stars can do for sponsored teams, what do you want from the teams for Alpine Stars? But you kind of just explained it in that last answer. So I'm going to skip ahead. And I heard you say that Alpine Stars goes to events and scans them. Does that mean you're scouting for talent? When you're
I mean,
scanning the event, did that mean you're scouting for new drivers and riders and
we
teams?
always one of the see so I'm this isn't my responsibility of hiring athletes, but
Okay.
I spoke with our professional athlete management team on both sides for the US and in Europe just to get an understanding, from their perspective. What are you doing? What are your key things that you guys look at? And this is MXGP, this is Supercross, this is Loretta's, this is from the highest level to the most entry level. And so like I'm going to go through some of the list of things that they told me. Age. So how do
Interesting.
you get riders at a young age? You go to the races where the young kids are racing. And our guy who helps manage our US team, he's there at Loretta's. And if there's kids that are like winning, 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 like he pays attention, he might meet the family, he might introduce himself, or just kind of keep an eye out. Like,
Hmm.
I'm going to look at, I'm going to say Jason. I'm going to look at Jason. I'm going to kind of see what Jason's doing. Like, what does he do when he gets off the track? What does his pits look like? Does he have a real professional setup? Is he really focused? Is he together? Is he stressed out and like freaking out and grabbing his stuff? Or is he like in control? And like, we have this one goal, one vision, right? It's the Alpine Stars mentality of what makes us what we do. A big thing of that is having the championship mentality. And even seeing that at a young age, a championship athlete at a young age acts differently than a normal kid, right? And those are things that we look out for because you look at Jet Lawrence, you look at all these guys, like when they were kids, their families, like they were all in. And you can tell when a rider and an athlete is like that. And so, yes, our team will be scouting at amateur races, at Loretta's, where there's a lot of attention on fast kids coming to show what they got. So our team is there to support. And if you go to Loretta's, you'll see our setup. You'll see the Alpine Stars tents. You'll see all the booths. You'll see our teams. Like we're there supporting our athletes, but also keeping an eye out on what's happening.
So
That's
what
cool. Now
about
that we've talked a
other,
lot about motocross with Loretta's, what about flat track racing or MotoGP or other types of racing? We had a drag racer on earlier.
Yeah,
Are
I
you
think Howell
scouting
had
those
a.
events as well?
Sorry, Alex, what did you say?
Now, I was going to
yes,
say
sir,
we
yes,
talked a lot
sir,
about motocross, so now let's go to other types of racing,
Alex
flat
had it.
track and MotoGP or even drag racing. Are you scouting those events as well?
Um, Howell was cutting in and out. So, I mean, everything
Okay.
from karting, we do karting apparel protection. So you scout in karting, and eventually that goes into, the higher levels of racing. Flat track, same thing. MotoGP, same thing. A lot of the athletes we have been with us since they were very, very young. And you look at Mark Marquez and wearing his leathers when he was very young. And look at Red Bull Rookies Cup. We support Red Bull Rookies Cup, which is 26 riders, full gear from the neck down. Same thing with a lot of other organizations. Like we have our support in areas that support the youth, and we do that with Loretta's, and we do that in a lot of forms of racing. So as you said, drag racing, no, we don't really do anything in the form of drag racing, but NASCAR, absolutely. F1, absolutely. We support F3. We support a lot of the programs within F1 underneath the drivers that are up and coming. So across all platforms, you're always looking for the next talent, and there's a lot of athletes that you'll see interviews with Jet and Eli and a lot of these guys. And when they were kids, like they said, like, I dreamed of being an Alpine Stars athlete. Like, what would it take for me to be an Alpine Stars athlete? A lot of these things that we're talking about here today, like these are the stepping stones to get recognized by a team, whether it be Alpine Stars or anybody else. Like all these things that everybody's talking about, like are so important. And if this is your life, right, you're dedicating your life, and sometimes your family is too. You hear of people moving homes and like moving into an RV to support their family, and that's incredible. And you can see that when you're in the pits and watching a rider, right? And you notice that. And these are things that we pay attention to.
Racing definitely is a family sport across all the disciplines. I see that over and over. You go and it's always families in their rig, their RV, they're hanging out. We only have just well, we a little overtime here, but just last words of advice, and we'll cue up
Okay.
Jordan Cochran, our closer for the day. Last words of advice. You got 30 seconds.
Oh man, last words of advice. I think number one is be genuine, be yourself. And if this is your passion, this is your life, do whatever it takes to be the champion. Does a champion win every race? Absolutely not. But how does a champion handle the challenges, right? Champions handle it differently than anybody else. The most successful athletes in history handle themselves differently than anybody else. Study, embrace, and adapt that. That's what I would say.
I love it. Heath, thank you once again. That was awesome.